Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to meet you all here. Your Excellency, President of Guyana, Dr. Irfaan, Your Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Fernando Ponz Cantó, Minister Singh, Minister McCoy, and members of media. We have gathered here for a very important event. I will not go into details of the event. I'm just here as a master of ceremonies, and I will be conducting this event for you today. First, I would like to express my gratitude that you all wear masks and respect the COVID restrictions. We have to all be careful and take good care of ourselves. First, I would like to give the floor to Ambassador Ponz Cantó.
Thank you very much, Evelina. And first of all, Mr. President, dear Mr. President, let me thank you for your presence here today. Welcome to the residents of the European Union. It is a real honor to have you here today. I will try to be brief, but I think it is important to mark this day because it is a day of celebration. We celebrate today the payment of almost 20 billion Guyanese dollars to the budget support of Guyana. Dear Excellency, dear Minister, ladies and gentlemen from the media, members of the European Union team, dear friends, I am really very happy to announce this disbursement. As I said, it is 20 billion Guyanese dollar, which is more or less 7.9 million euro, almost 10 million US dollars. I trust and I know that Guyana will use this money so that it contributes to the progress and well-being of its people in the spirit of reconciliation, inclusiveness, and improving daily lives for all. From faraway Europe, people sometimes say these days that Guyana does not need more help because there is the oil flowing. We know this is not the case. There is a need for a bridging period. There are many needs and there are many things to do, many good things to do. That's why I'm especially happy today to announce this sizable contribution despite COVID, despite the crisis. The European Union is firmly by the side of Guyana, like always, even more. I want to thank today most especially all those who made this success possible. In the first place, the government and the people of Guyana. But also, let me congratulate and thank my team, the European Union team. They have not gone the extra mile or kilometer. They have gone 1,000 miles beyond the call of duty. Thank you very much. Once again, the EU and myself will be very happy to see Guyana going the way of progress, inclusiveness, and reconciliation, so that this contribution, but also all the new resources, will benefit all the Guyanese. And I know how committed this government is to that. Importantly, I hope and I trust that this contribution will help Guyana to address the challenges it faces, but also to make the most of the opportunities it has. Let me briefly dwell a little bit on those historical opportunities and challenges. Challenges are many, and you know it better than I do. Governance, reforms, institutional reform, electoral reforms, fight against crime, fight against organized crime, fight against corruption, but also working for the health of the Guyanese, for education, for citizen security, for human rights. I know how committed you are. I'm so grateful and encouraged by that, and even more so today, which is the International Day of Human Rights, as you know. Many challenges, but also many opportunities. I hope I am not going to disappoint you, but I'm not going to say anything about the oil and gas. You know everything about that. We talk perhaps a little bit too much about that because there are many other opportunities. And it is important to diversify, and I know, Mr. President, that you are fully aware of that. We have discussed about that. Diversification is important. It's essential. Diversification in terms of products, but also in terms of partners. This is the European way, by the way. We believe in terms of partnerships. We believe in multiple partnerships. We believe in multilateralism, and we look forward to cooperate even closer with Guyana on all kinds of multilateral issues. But also diversification in terms of economic diversification. And we in Europe, we have learned the hard way. My own country, which is that one, has made also a bit of a mistake in the past, focusing on a few economic sectors, which was in the short term very important for the country, but in the long term, when there was the crisis, for example, it hit us particularly bad. The whole of Europe now, I think, is going the way of diversification, and I congratulate you for your awareness of the importance of this concept. Let me conclude with some words on perhaps the most important thing that we have today, our partnership, the EU Guyana Partnership. When I came here to Guyana for the first time in 2014, there were two representations of Europe here. One was the British High Commission, the other was the delegation of the European Union. Now there is one, and it is us. That is also a challenge and an opportunity for us. Challenge because we have to work harder, opportunity because now we represent 27 member states, and we can harness the strength of those member states for the mutual benefit of Guyana and of Europe. More Guyana in Europe, more Europe in Guyana. And it is not only about development cooperation. Of course, today we celebrate development cooperation, and it is extremely important. But our partnership covers all areas: political, economic, trade, investment, multilateral cooperation, regional cooperation, cooperation with CARICOM, with CARIFORUM, EU CELAC, more Guyana in Europe, more Europe in Guyana. We have a historical opportunity, and it is not a zero-sum game. It is a win-win. It is benefits for Europe, and it is benefits for Guyana. Dear President, dear Mr. President, what a year we are leaving behind. We had two crises for the price of one in Guyana. You know this better than I do. Sometimes it was hard. But thanks to all the Guyanese, this country now has a bright future in front of itself. I repeat, it is thanks to all the Guyanese. And it is a bright future. But please, nobody should take it for granted. There was a saying about a South American nation which had a strong potential. I will not name names, but they used to say, this country is the country of the future, and it will always be. You know what that means. It means that it never realized its potential. Now is the time to break that cycle. Now is the time to go ahead. That was not Guyana, by the way. It was another country. To conclude, next year will mark the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the delegation of the European Union in Guyana. So we have a lot to celebrate. And I'm sure that we will celebrate many other achievements. And I hope to see you all at the celebrations. But for the time being, let me stop here, because we are all looking forward to hear His Excellency the Minister Singh, and also, importantly, His Excellency President Ali, who is honoring us today with his presence. Please continue to keep safe. We have to take all those precautions because of COVID. I thank you for wearing your mask. I thank you for continuing to keep safe. COVID is still there. We must keep all the precautions. I want to conclude wishing you all a very good Christmas, a very good and safe New Year's celebrations, an excellent 2021, and all possible happiness for you and for your families. Thank you for being here today. Mr. Minister, if you want.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Your Excellency, President Ali, my cabinet colleagues, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlal, and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Kwame McCoy, Ambassador Cantó, distinguished members of staff of the EU delegation in Guyana, ladies and gentlemen of the media, let me say how pleased and privileged I am to be able to participate in this press event marking the occasion of the approval by the European Union of this very important and generous disbursement of over 7 million euros to Guyana. I am particularly pleased and privileged to be here today, partly because of my previous involvement, and indeed of our previous involvement, when we were last in government, in making Guyana eligible for budget support in the first instance. For those of you who might not be familiar with the budget support instrument, it's an instrument of development support that is provided by the European Union to countries who have demonstrated that they meet certain prerequisites in relation to good governance, macroeconomic stability, fiscal oversight, and good and strong public financial management as conditions for general eligibility for budget support. And on top of that, it has a number of performance indicators associated with whichever sector the budget support instrument relates. So in the event that a particular budget support program relates to sea and coastal defenses, there will be performance indicators that have to be achieved in order for a country to qualify for budget support and which will influence the amount of the disbursement. I pause to elaborate this because I recall the hard work that we had to do the last time we were in government to make Guyana eligible for budget support for the first time. And that required us demonstrating that we had achieved a certain level of macroeconomic stability, having come from a background of fiscal unsustainability and insolvency, and it required for us to demonstrate that we had good and sound systems for managing public finances. Those, like I said, were prerequisites before we could be deemed eligible for budget support. And on the last occasion that we were in government prior to 2015, we set about the task of ensuring that Guyana became eligible by ensuring that we have all of these prerequisites in place. And I dare say that we performed very well. And in fact, at one time, we were a star performer under the EU budget support program. This program, of course, continued over the course of the last 5 years. But it was extremely unfortunate that developments that unfolded in Guyana, in particular since December 2018, after the passage of the no confidence motion and the effective non-existence of parliamentary oversight, it's extremely unfortunate that our country was found in a situation where we were unable to secure this disbursement because of the absence of parliamentary oversight since December 2018. And for that reason, Ambassador, I'm especially pleased to acknowledge the role that you played, along with the international community, in ensuring that democracy was protected and safeguarded and restored to our country following the events of March to August 2020. And I'm especially pleased that with the resumption of democracy and the restoration of parliament, that Guyana is now once again eligible for this disbursement. And I would like to thank you very much for that. If I may also, without preempting His Excellency's speech, if I may also say, we remain committed to ensure that we preserve an environment that will see Guyana continue to be eligible for budget support. And you referred to our imminent oil revenue, and I will say that oil revenue notwithstanding, we intend to work very hard to qualify for every single euro of budget support, because it goes a long way in helping us to finance the important budgetary initiatives that we've included in our budget, and I won't elaborate unduly on those. But you know that we are committed, firmly committed, to ensuring not only the creation and preservation of an environment that is conducive to the diversified economic growth that you refer to, and I'm glad that you referred to it, and I'm sure His Excellency will elaborate more on it. But suffice it to say, we are firmly committed to securing a vibrant and dynamic non-oil economy. But in addition to that, these budgetary support resources go a long way in ensuring that we are able to meet the fiscal needs of the Guyanese people, to finance the critical interventions to address investments in important sectors, infrastructure and social sector, while preserving a strong fiscal position. And so it's certainly our intention, oil revenues notwithstanding, that we will be working closely with you to ensure that we qualify for every single euro of budget support going forward. I will not say much more because, of course, I wouldn't want to stand between your audience and His Excellency's address. But suffice it to say, Ambassador, thank you very much. Thank you to your staff for the hard work that they did in ensuring that the documentation to support this disbursement was prepared. It would be remiss of me not to also acknowledge the work done by colleagues in government, my staff in the Ministry of Finance and in other agencies of government, who worked very hard in ensuring that this disbursement was realized. So, Ambassador, thank you very much, and I look forward to many, many more months and years of working closely with you. Thank you very much.
Ambassador, Attorney General, Minister Dr. Ashni Singh, Kwame McCoy, staff of the Commission, members of the media, good afternoon. It gives me great honor to be here. First of all, to acknowledge the hard work of those in government and those of the European Union, Ambassador and your team, the collaboration and their commitment to ensuring that we are here today, and our efforts over the last months were successful in bringing, at this very difficult time, budget support for Guyana. It is important that we recognize that this budget support is coming at a time when mobilizing resources is extremely difficult globally, especially resources to help developing countries. The pandemic has indeed caused tremendous socio and economic hardship, but also tremendous financial constraints on countries. These constraints, as I recognized this morning in a special address to the FAO, has affected countries negatively. Their state of indebtedness has worsened. Their ability to repay their debt has worsened. And there is now a global call for the rescheduling of loans and loan payment. Notwithstanding this, we have been able to mobilize this essential resource for Guyana. So I want to thank Ambassador for the leadership role he also played. I know every single day since I took office, there has been communication, direct, bureaucracy has been removed, and strong commitments would have been made from both sides to see the success of our program and to ensure that governance is delivered in a structure that ensures democracy, constitutional rule, and importantly, as Ambassador pointed out, issues that we have to deal with in the future. Issues of electoral reform, issues of putting the vehicle in place so that we can move to the constitutional reform, issues that has to do with strengthening different areas of government. Next week, for example, we'll be having a meeting with all stakeholders, including contractors, on the standard bidding document and standard evaluation criteria. It has been very distressing for the government to see that evaluation criteria were restructured in such a way that it became a hindrance to businesses. We saw, for example, criteria that disqualified bidder because they did not show what qualification the mason had or the carpenter had. So these are issues that we are grappling with that requires change, and we are committed to that. So very shortly we'll have this consultation. Ambassador also rightfully pointed out that the issue of diversification, economic strengthening, and to ensure that the foundation of the economy is not a one-pillar foundation, but that the economic risk, the economic profile, and the revenue base is as wide as possible, so that in times of shock in one particular sector or the other, the economy would be variable enough to withstand such shock. So next week, for example, we are going to be conducting a high-level conference with stakeholders, all stakeholders, potential investors, the legal community, specialists in aquaculture. Because aquaculture has important and recognizable benefits for Guyana. And we are naturally positioned because of our geography, because of the type of water we have, the fresh water, the brackish water, to become a major player in aquaculture. And with the imminent cost of energy that will be reduced ahead of us, we have to start preparing for the benefits. So next week, we're going to organize this conference that will bring together stakeholders, that will bring together participants, investors, specialists in this sector, so that we can have a defined pathway as to how we can develop the aquaculture industry to the extent that we are globally competitive and become a serious player in the market. We are known for wild-caught, fresh-caught produce, seafood, but unfortunately, the marketplace also requires a different product that can come through aquaculture. So agricultural diversification, industrialization, manufacturing, development of a sustainable energy sector, linking our economic prospect with the region and our neighbors, integrating infrastructure, and finding essential synergies are critical in the development path that our country is taking. So, Ambassador, today is a day when we should recognize too, and I recognize this as President, how important and fragile our government and democracy can be, and what you stand to lose when you let that democracy slip away from us. since 2018, it is the people of the country who suffered because this support was not there. And that, of course, is a great motivation and reminder to me and the government in ensuring that we don't slip this way and that Guyana will move forward in a progressive manner. But most critical, as I conclude, is the regaining of our country's credibility. And I've been speaking at many international forums, United Nations, FAO, WTO, CARICOM, and a lot of emphasis and time has been placed on rebuilding that credibility. That is so important. And this, of course, today goes a long way in portraying the new Guyana and regaining that trust and credibility. With these few words, Ambassador, once again, I thank you personally for your commitment and the work you did in ensuring that democracy prevailed at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to give the opportunity for media members to take some questions. Please tell us to whom you would like to address your question and which media you are representing. So,
or Minister Singh, and then to the Ambassador. Just to clarify, gentlemen, this budgetary support is all going to the coastal infrastructure program. And Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned reconciliation and inclusivity. Could you expand a bit more how those two are tied to the budget support? You may want to use the microphone.
Sure. So Nazim, in answer to your question, this disbursement is in relation to the coastal and shore zone management, what's called sectoral budget support. But the way it works is the funds are disbursed into the Treasury, into the consolidated fund, and the government will fund or would have funded the activities associated with achieving the performance indicators. But you are correct that this is under the coastal zone, what's called sectoral budget support in relation to coastal management. Yes, I was wondering if I should.
Ambassador, you want to?
Sorry.
Thank you, Minister, for that response, and thank you for the question, which allows me to expand a little bit on two important subjects, which are closely connected. You know as well as I do, probably, perhaps better than I do, that in Guyana there has been a lot of frustration over the 5 months or more of political post-electoral crisis. And I think that reconciliation is necessary, but also reconciliation is possible. Because I have to say that over those 5 months and more, I was impressed, and I think I said it already, that the large majority of Guyanese across the parties, any party, wanted a democratic and peaceful solution, reconciliation, and to look towards the future. And I think this is what I mean by that. I think that it's time to look towards the future. We think, as friends of Guyana, we would like to see Guyanese going together, fully reconciled as Guyanese and nothing else, in the road of prosperity. And inclusiveness is also related to that, of course. Participation is important. This is not only for Guyana, but for every country, including the European Union. We want an inclusive political participation, but also we want inclusive and sustainable development, so that basically everybody benefits from the prosperity that I am sure is going to come to Guyana.
If I may follow up Nazima's question a bit, could you say to us in what way the EU is prepared to support that inclusivity, and if you've made any particular offer in that regard as yet? Whether it's for institutional reform or electoral reform, as you would have mentioned earlier.
Yes, well, I think I said it, the EU stands by the side of Guyana, but one perhaps peculiarity of the EU approach is that we always want to support, not to impose, never to impose. We want to support, and I think we have already discussed it before with President Ali and other members of the government. There are many good ideas, and the EU is there, and I'm sure that at least some of them will find a way to support, but always under the principle that it is Guyana that decides what it wants to do, what kind of reforms it wants to do, and then if those reforms we consider that they are worth to support, then we will do everything we can to support them. And I cannot tell you now which one we can support or which one we can't, because first of all, that depends on what reforms Guyana itself decides to undertake. But I'm sure that we will have a lot of possibilities to cooperate on that, and I think it is very important.
If I perhaps might direct it to Mr. Ali then, would you say to us if there are any particular reforms or measures related to inclusivity and reconciliation that your government is presently considering or have approached any particular donor body about?
Reconciliation is a very wide and complex issue. In every aspect of governance, the element of inclusivity and the element of people must be there. Once the element of inclusivity and people is there, then the system of government, the delivery of government, the measures of government will be in reaction to the needs of the people. That's the first thing. Very, very important. Issues of inequality, issues of disparity. These things are addressed from a political, an economic, a social, and a legislative perspective. And all of these things has to work in tandem. It has to work in tandem for it to have demonstrable effect on the population. And that is sometimes what we miss. It is not only a set of reforms and a set of laws, it is system, it is programs, it is structure of the budget that are critical in achieving this. So yes, we are engaging not only the European Union, we are engaging many multilateral stakeholders, bilateral partners, on various issues that has a direct and indirect bearing on inclusivity and reconciliation. I have addressed in my brief comments certain legislative reforms, electoral reform. That is just one aspect of the business. The structure of the economy, the way resources are allocated is another aspect of the business. The social programs that ensure social justice is another important part in the equation. This equation is not a singular equation. You can say it's a simultaneous equation. So, yes, we are engaging. There is no specific agency that's been identified for any particular issue in these two areas, but there is a holistic approach in the context of what I've just said, and that is an ongoing discussion that is taking place. And you will see the results of this. Thank you very much.
Kurt Campbell from the newsroom. My question is for Minister Singh. Can you clarify that you are saying that the absence of parliamentary oversight all the way back to December 2018 has delayed this disbursement? And if in fact there was a timeline, when was it?
Yes, I am in fact saying definitively that the absence of parliamentary oversight rendered this disbursement undisbursable. In fact, it's specifically the absence of parliamentary oversight that resulted in this disbursement being delayed.
So if there is a timeline, when Guyana should have received the money?
That I wouldn't precisely be able to say off the top of my head. I could quite easily check the date that Guyana first. Yeah.
We are aiming at very imminent.
No, this
Yeah.
is a new
So you're asking when did Guyana first become, when does this disbursement potentially become available?
Yes.
Right.
This
That
disbursement.
right. So that specific date I can't say off the top of my head, but we could quite easily check that. I could quite easily check that. I do know definitively that the disbursement was delayed on account of it was stalled on account of there not being parliamentary oversight. We could get the exact sort of duration of that delay. Well, it affected this disbursement that has now been approved.
Just want yes, Mr. President or Ambassador, could you say in simple language whether this money will be used to help to reconstruct the damaged sea walls? Is that it?
Yes, the principle of budget support indeed is that it is dedicated to some specific, that it covers, corresponds to activities which have already been carried out, and the activities that were carried out were indeed related to the seawall, including, I think it was 8 kilometers of seawall completely made strong and resistant, but many other linked activities. Now, the principle of budget support is that now the money comes and it goes directly to the budget. So it can support this particular payment can be used by the government, by the responsible authorities, and they can decide what kind of part of the budget they are going to cover with that. That is the principle of budget support, not only in Guyana, but everywhere else where we use it. And I think, as the minister said very rightly, we only use it in situations when we have a relationship of trust. So we know, of course, there are indicators, there are many technical requirements to meet, but I am very happy to say that now, because those requirements have been met and subject to the last checks, this money will be made available, and it will be made available for you to utilize it very soon. I cannot tell you an exact date, but certainly we trust that it will be before the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Mr. President, I know you referred earlier to the conference that will be coming up dealing with part of the marine sector, but could you at this stage say for us very quickly why were the two trawler licenses issued when in fact there are concerns about overfishing and so on?
Exactly my point. You have to look at future demand. There's a lot of individuals and investors who want to see this industry expand. So we have an issue where the size of the catch has been reducing, and that is why we have to build the aquaculture industry. This matter will be fully, I think the Minister of Agriculture has ventilated it, and it will be fully ventilated. But let me also say this to you. When I came into government, when our government came in, there has been also a number of reports that we received. For example, when I was in Suriname, the fisher folk here asked me to raise an issue over there, where they would have lost their license and they had to rent license from the Surinamis who were given license in Icari. Right? The Guyanese lost their license, and they were renting the Surinamese license. We fixed that problem. We signed an agreement, and they are now being given new license as we speak. Guyanese fishermen. On the other hand, here in Guyana, we had reports of the misuse of license too. And I've asked the Ministry of Agriculture to do a comprehensive report. And at the end of that report, as I've been doing all the time, I'll be more than happy to share with you. But there are issues that has been raised about those persons with license. Similar to that, those that the fisher folk asked me to raise in Suriname. Issues to deal with the use of duty-free fuel. It's a complex issue. It's a very complex issue, and I don't want to use this forum to deal with that. But I want to say to you that a comprehensive report will be done. All right?
President Ali, if I may, I have a question that's perhaps three-pronged. We've heard today of reconciliation, inclusivity, parliamentary oversight. You publicly extended an invitation to former presidents to attend the meeting on December 15th. Could you give us an idea as to how many responses you've received and whether they've been positive or negative? Two, in speaking about parliamentary inclusivity, could you give us an idea on the status of the cooperation between your office and the office of the leader of the opposition? And could you also speak to us about moves to basically confirm our chancellor and chief justice? We've been having a particular issue.
Let me answer your question. I don't want to take up the ambassador's space here, but I'll deal with it very quickly for you. Can you update me on whether Mr. Harman has changed his position in relation to the way he sees the government? That's the first thing.
Actually, I can't speak on Mr. Harman.
I
can
know you
only
can't
speak on
speak
the
for Mr. Harman,
Constitution,
but I'm asking you as the media to give me an update on whether he has changed his position. Secondly, in the interests of inclusiveness, and you must have some amount of discipline too. I'm answering your question. I mean, I have full respect for the press. I've always been open to the press. But this is a two-way street. This has to be a two-way street if we are to grow as a people. If we are to grow as a people, this has to be a two-way street. So, one, Mr. Harman has not changed his position. Secondly, in the interests of inclusiveness and in keeping with what I committed to, in my inauguration speech, I have extended the invitation to all the former presidents. And I'm anticipating and I'm hoping for a fruitful meeting and the attendance of all the presidents. That is as much as I can tell you in relation to that. Thank you.
Any response?
Have you received response?
Ms. Gail Teixeira is dealing with that at the moment. Minister Gail Teixeira, you can check with that. But as I said, we have an engagement with the former president that I'm looking forward to, all former presidents. And I'm very, very confident that it will be a fruitful engagement and that all of Guyana will see all the former presidents acting responsibly and being part of that engagement.
And the confirmation of Chancellor and Chief Justice?
That is a process. That process has not started.
I'm ready to take one more question related to the budget support, if there is any. So I don't see that there is any question related to the budget support. So I thank you very much, Excellencies, for your speeches.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I thank the media also.
And of course, I thank media members as well for your interest and for coming here. And I would like us all together to raise a glass of champagne and toast for the future and prosperity of the country. So the champagne will be served over there. So please take precautions with your masks when drinking champagne. But still, we would like to toast with you all together. For you, the champagne will be there for medium for you.
So they don't need to
They
make
will
it.
bring
It's
to
still them to
yeah.
I have you covered.
in front.
Oh, in front. Cheers. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. And now I think that
Yes.
you can perhaps move, if you wish, with all the precautions to the place where you will receive a glass of champagne. Thank you very much, everybody.